Hello everyone, welcome to Redbest US channel. In this video, we'll look at the recent settlement that happened between USCIS and other parties regarding the delays on H4 EAD and L2 EAD and what it means, where it gives 180 days automatic extension and other aspects. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe for getting regular updates. This is what we'll cover in this video. Background of why this case and everything, and then what is the settlement summary. Then we look at each of the aspects of L2 and then L2 EADs and then H4 EADs, and what happens if you did a concurrent filing as well, and what are the next steps, right? So this is what we will cover in this video. Again, what is the news, right? So essentially, this is the official document, that settlement document that came up, that was actually released yesterday, in fact, in a court of Seattle, right? So this is the news, and in fact, it's about a 9-page document, and the analysis is completely based on the settlement agreement that reached between these people. So we put in screenshots of this as we do the article. We'll also have a link to the article where you can find the actual PDF of this as well. Now, what is the background, right? I mean, many of you are like, okay, there are so many lawsuits happening, and what is the background of this lawsuit, and why are they doing this, right? So the fundamental aspect of this is there are tremendous amount of delays for H4 and L2 EAD processing times. What you see on the screen is a screenshot of processing times that are tracked by visagrader.com. Where they can see how they've been going crazy. Some of them extreme 15 months, and 15 months is a very long time, right? So this has been causing a lot of issues where many people are losing jobs, and so there are many lawsuits that were filed by some of these firms on a very like a small basis, like only a set of people just to get the approvals done, but they never really did anything class action lawsuit as such. So eventually they did finally class action lawsuit that just happened. Now, in terms of the case, right? Class action lawsuit is nothing but when a bunch of people actually go together and then look at the overall problem, not just for them. So that is, in a very simplified version of what a class action lawsuit looks like, right? So this case was filed in US District Court. It's referred as Shergill versus Mayorkas, and I mean these are all from logistics, right? What the case number is and all. But what is important is that the case was filed in late September, and the settlement came in November 9. And the reason for settlement usually happens is when they believe that the merits of the case are low, or it's going to drain the resources on either sides. So this is usually happens, and the reason for this to happen also is because there are so many lawsuits that are filed, and USCIS was just getting beaten so crazily in all over the place by these lawsuits. So they don't want to deal with these anymore, and also the administration is also slightly more pro towards what is happening now in terms of EADs and all. In the past, Trump administration was very different. Yeah, that's the reason they come up with this settlement, rather, I would say. Now, in terms of the high-level summary, right? So the key argument points were only two. I mean, primarily two, right? One is L2 EADs, right, are interpreted improperly, meaning, in general, as per the INA or the rules, right, that L2 EAD should have been given as per status. L2 holders do not have to apply for EAD at all. That was the first argument point. And the second one is DHS is unlawfully holding these extensions of H4 EADs, which is basically like, they have H4 status, and it's basically a rubber stamp kind of a thing, right? They don't even have to look at that, and just because of one of those, they're just holding these. Yeah. So these are the two main things that they went after, and this is filed under something called APA, Administrative Procedure Act, where something is not right. That's a common thing that many do, right? And that was the one that they went through, and in fact, they seek for a preliminary injunction for this, but of course that was not given, and they eventually came to the settlement. While this was happening, most of the EADs were adjudicated except about 3 people. So that was the whole idea around this. And the settlement involves mostly all the asks by the plaintiffs. Plaintiffs are nothing but the people who actually, sued or put in a lawsuit, right? So these are they got whatever they wanted, right? So employment option for L2 EAD holders just based on the status, and also they get 180 days extension up to 180 days for L2 EADs. Yeah. So the second one is up to 180 days for H4 EADs as well, who have valid underlying H4 status. Yeah. So we'll look at each of these details and how the mechanics of that, how that works, and what you need to do, right? And how the employer will ask and what they will look for. Now, firstly, let's look at L2 holders based on status. So as per the official regulation or statute, right, there is no need for DHS to mandate L2 holders to even apply for EAD. So all these years they interpreted it wrongly, and they were just asking them to apply for EAD, which is a significant amount of cost and wait times for them, right? So as per the settlement, what USCIS will do is they will issue a policy guidance that states that L2 spouses can work just based on their L2 status, and the status is something that you get when you enter the country, and when you enter the country at the port of entry and go to the port of entry procedures, you'll be given an I-94, right? Electronic or paper, whichever media, based on where you come in, right? Either land or flight. And in that itself, they want to make some changes. So this is where they'll work with CBP to ensure that the I-94 can be used as a List C document. So these are documents that are used by the employer to verify that the person is legally employed and all of that. It's called I-9 verification. Usually when you start a job, this is mandatory, so they have to manage that you're legally employed and you have legal status and everything. So bottom line, basically based on the L2 status, which is I-94 validity, you will be able to work if you're an L2 visa holder. You don't have to apply for this anymore. And this one they plan to do it within 120 days. And as you can see on the screen, this is a screenshot from the actual settlement document where they say they will issue policy document that states L2 spouses are employment authorized incident to status. Yeah, incident to status meaning if you have status, that's all it means. Yeah. So again, you can read through that. We'll anyways put in the link as well. So, but this is exactly the information. Now, the second aspect for L2 EAD holders is the automatic extension of employment authorization. So automatic extension is not new. In fact, there are many EAD categories that actually get automatic extension today. So EAD, L2 EAD and H4 EAD are not part of it today. So I mean, you can click on the link on category codes. We have an article on that, and you can check out that in the description, right? So what they will do is USCIS will also interpret the regulation, that's a number that actually has the automatic extensions for all the EADs. Yeah, so they'll add this L2 EADs, which is of category A18, to get up to 180 days. Yeah, and it will be based on 3 conditions. So the person has to file the L2 EAD using Form I-765 before before it expires. So you have to file it before an I-94 expires or before the EAD expires. The second one is they will extend the EAD automatic extension as soon for up to 180 days, and it will end as soon as one of the 3 conditions are met. So the first one is if the L2 status ends, which is nothing but your I-94 expires. So the second one is L2 EAD decision is given by USCIS, and the third one is 180 days from the day the actual card expires. So the card will have a date on it, and for 180 days from that. So if any of these 3 events occur, right, then the L2 EAD automatic extension will end. This is very, very important. So if one of these 3 actually are met, or one of these are met, then the EAD extension will end automatically. It is not that you will get 180 days completely. So it's up to 180 days. You have to be very, 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 very careful, So the official also regulation or the official settlement is looking like this, right? The auto extension would terminate the earlier of, it's basically the meaning the same. And these are 3 conditions. So you can read the screenshot and, the document as well. Now, this is in terms of L2 extension. Now, what will the employers get, right? The guidance to agencies and how do, so what USCIS will do, right? They will say that they will actually tell all the agencies and employers and how to interpret this for I-9 compliance. And what they will ask for is your employers basically for making sure you are, compliance as per I-9 is you need to submit the expired L2 EAD card that has the category that says A118. And also the receipt notice that says that you filed it before the I-95 expired. Yeah, very, very important, because this is the only way they will know that you filed it when it expired and it has A18 category. The third one is your I-94 that shows until when you had the status. So based on these 3, they will actually have your I-9 extended or have I-9 compliance. Yeah, so this is what the employers will look for, and this is what you need to be making sure they're in correct order. Now, in terms of re-verification is basically, let's say you get the L2 decision or any of that. So employers need to re-verify as soon as within the 180 days. Yeah, and they also have to do this before one of the 3 things occurs. These are same as what you've seen in the previous slide, which is if the I-94 expires, right, before the I-94 expires, or the decision from USCIS comes in, or the 180 days from the auto extension period. So they need to re-verify this as soon as one of these things happen. So technically, just look at a scenario, right? right? Let's say you are working on a L2 EAD, and now suddenly you say that you haven't got the decision yet, and your N94 expiring. So you will have to actually go to your employer and submit these documents that tells that you have done this before. So that's the condition one. The second one is, let's say you get a decision, you need to go do that, L2 EAD, and go to your employer and submit this. Or you keep waiting for all of these, then you submit it within 1 day. Again, very standard stuff. This is this, but the idea is you have to be compliant, and you need to work with your employer. Now, the guidance to agencies, this official thing. I'll let you read the screenshot, or you can pause and read it. This is the actual one. It says a combination of the documents, right? So that's what it says, and they need to re-verify. So this is the legal text, that is. You can read it. You can read the PDF, and to get an idea. Now let's look at the H4 EAD holders, how it works. So they said that H4 EAD holders, they'll interpret the regulation and will get automatic extension. So this is exactly similar to L2 EADs, and this is no different. Up to 180 days. The key rules are, you need to file H4 EAD before the expiration of, before the expiry of I-94, right? Using form I-765. And the three conditions are also similar, but here it's just H4 status, right? So your EAD extension, automatic extension, will end as soon as one of the three are met. One is if your status ends, which is basically your I-94 expires, or you get a decision on H4 EAD from USCIS, either approval or denial, or 180 days from the day the H4 EAD card expires. So this is the actual date on the H4 EAD card. So basically this is exactly same like past. So yeah, you need to be careful looking at these three things, right? And official documentation is this, right? So the fundamental difference here between the L2 and here is you need to have the C26 is the category code for H4 EAD. So that's the only difference. Yeah. So the problem with this is, right, many of the applicants actually are filing concurrently. So we'll address it in a minute. Again, looking at the official guidance. So this is the official guidance, right? So the official guidance is also pretty similar to what they've given for L2 EADs. So you need to submit the expired EAD card that has the C26 category, and also the receipt notice that has that. That indicates that you filed before the expiration of the EAD card. Yeah. The third one is the I-94 departure card that is not expired and shows the valid status. So these are very important. I mean, same as before. And again, employer need to re-verify, basically telling that you are in status and all of these things. And again, it's the same conditions that I outlined in the L2 EAD situation. I'm not going to go over that again. It's a repetition of the same, right? So you can watch that part. And also one thing is USCIS will also change the H4D receipt notice that reflects this within 120 days. Because if you look at the receipt notice today, it doesn't have this category listed. I mean, there is some confusion on it. Some of them have interpret wrongly, but they'll explicitly put in a C26 category in that to tell that the receipt notice can be used for 180 days automatic extension. So that's what they will do, and that's what they said as well. And in terms of guidance to agencies, right? So this is the official guidance to the agencies that they would have. So you can read through that. It's pretty similar. Yeah. Now, what about concurrent filing? So this is one of the biggest issues, because many of the people who file for H4 extensions or H4 EADs, they are actually file it concurrently with H4. So, sadly, the current settlement does not cover the standalone H4 EADs. The concurrent filings. It only addresses the standalone H4 EADs. So the point is, it does not have any impact on concurrent filings. Yeah, sadly, that's the way it is. And the reason is the settlement relies on underlying H4 status and your I-94 validity. But when you apply for H4 extension, you don't have H4 status sometimes. You wait a long time for 15 months and your I-94 expires. So this H4 EAD thing does not even kick in. So now one of the solutions, right? This is one of the solutions. I mean, there are many, but one of the quick solutions that we can think of. Again, you should check with your Rotani before you do any of these, right? But I'm just saying the simplistic way is you apply for H1B extension with using premium processing, and you do not file H4 extension. Yeah. So whenever your spouse's H1B is expiring before 6 months, file for H4 and H1B extension in premium processing, and do not file for H4 extension because you still have 6 months to go. Now, within 15 days, you'll get the result. You wait for the approval notice, and you take that approval notice and then travel out of the country. Now, technically, you have 6 months, right? So or maybe 5 months, whatever. You travel out of the country, the close by Canada or Mexico, and get your I-94 extended. So now you'll get the I-94 extended for next 3 more years because you have valid visa to re-enter, and you get your I-94. Now, once you have that, then you go to the next steps. Let's say you cannot travel to local countries because your visa is expired and you can't get your I-94 extended. Then you can go to home country, get stamped. Again, this is tricky because basically you may have hard time finding slots and everything. But this is one of the options, that I mean, things will improve, but you can go for a Dropbox and things like that. So this is the extreme option. Now, once you get your I-94 for extended, either going out of the country and coming in, then you file for H4 EAD standalone. Now, what happens is you actually, if the EAD takes 1 year, let's say 12 months for adjudication, basically after 6 months your status will expire anyways. It doesn't expire, right? So even if the delay for 3 years, you are still covered because you get this 180 days extension because you're finding standalone, and you have the new I-94 for 3 years validity. So you can continue to work even though your card expires. That is the most important part. Yeah? So you can work for up to 6 months even though the card expires. So that is the important part, to take away. Now, what are the next steps? So the next steps are USCIS will issue a formal policy. Again, these are all what is in the settlement. But when this actually translates into the USCIS regulatory doc text, some things may change. They may be fine tuning of how they will work. But again, they will have to wait for this official formal policy. And they said they'll update the website within 120 days, and they'll update the receipt notices. They'll work with CBP. So all of these are what they outlined. So all of these, the timeline is 120 days. Again, if you also following the H4 EAD, we are also waiting for the premium processing. So far, no update on that. Has been dragging forever. So that is something that is going to be more keen. That will solve a lot more problems, but we'll have to see how they'll handle that, right? So overall, this is what we expect in the next 120 days. It's overall good news for H4 EAD holders, LTD holders. It doesn't address everybody, but nevertheless, it's definitely helping a lot of people, and I hope it will help everybody if you follow one of the trick that we just mentioned, right? So hopefully it'll be good. So let's see what comes out. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe for getting regular updates.